The celestial traverse hummed through the void between star systems, carrying delegates from 17 different species to the Galactic Council Summit on Arcturus Prime. In the main passenger bay, tension had been mounting for the past 3 standard hours, and the source was unmistakable. The high-pitched wailing of a draconian infant. Ambassador Varal, the dragon diplomat from the Draconian Empire, clutched her child against her scaled chest, her crest flattened in distress. The baby, no larger than a human toddler but covered in iridescent silver scales, continued its relentless crying despite every attempt to soothe it. The sound echoed through the metal corridors like a siren that refused to stop. "Please," Varal hissed softly, her forked tongue flicking in agitation. "Little Sarath, please be calm." The other passengers were becoming increasingly agitated. A Centaurian official had already lodged 3 formal complaints with the ship's captain. The Matharian Meditation Collective couldn't maintain their neural harmony with such disruption. Even the usually patient Verdani had wilted their fronds in obvious discomfort. Bailey wiped the grease from her hands onto her already stained coveralls and emerged from the engine compartment, her auburn hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She was the ship's human mechanic, hired on at the last port for cheap labor. Humans were still considered a curiosity in most galactic circles, their recent entry into the wider universe making them something of an oddity. She'd been trying to recalibrate the plasma injectors when the crying first started, and it hadn't stopped since. "That poor woman," Bailey muttered to herself, watching the diplomat sway desperately with her child. She'd seen Varal in the corridors before, always poised, always dignified. Now the diplomat looked utterly defeated. Asher, the ship's navigation officer, and the only other human aboard, approached Bailey from the bridge. His dark eyes were tired, his usually neat uniform rumpled. "Captain's losing his mind up there. Says if that crying doesn't stop soon, we might have a diplomatic incident before we even reach Arcturus." "Has anyone actually tried to help her?" Bailey asked, frowning. "The ship's medical AI scanned the baby twice. Says nothing's wrong physically. Might be psychological distress from the journey, but Draconians are notoriously private about their child-rearing practices." No one really knows what to do. Bailey watched as Varal's shoulders sagged further, the proud diplomat looking smaller somehow despite her 7-foot frame. The baby's cries seemed to grow more desperate, more afraid. "Screw it," Bailey said suddenly, striding toward the passenger bay. "Bailey, wait," Asher called after her, but she was already approaching the dragon diplomat. The other passengers parted around Bailey like she carried a plague. Varal looked up sharply, her reptilian eyes narrowing with both hope and wariness. "Ambassador," Bailey said respectfully, stopping a few feet away. "I'm Bailey, one of the ship's mechanics. I might be able to help?" Varal's crest rose slightly, skeptical. "The medical systems have already—" "I'm not talking about medicine," Bailey interrupted gently. "May I?" She held out her hands. The request hung in the air like a physical thing. Draconians didn't let outsiders touch their young. Ever. It was one of the galaxy's well-known taboos. Bailey could feel Asher's presence behind her, probably having followed to prevent whatever disaster he thought she was about to cause. But Varal, desperate and exhausted, did something that would be discussed in xenocultural studies for years to come. She handed little Esrath to the human mechanic. The baby felt warm against Bailey's chest, warmer than human body temperature, with scales that were surprisingly soft. Esrath continued crying, tiny claws gripping Bailey's coveralls. She could feel the entire passenger bay holding its collective breath. Bailey did what felt natural. She began to bounce slightly, a gentle rhythmic motion. She hummed, not words, just a low, rumbling sound from deep in her chest. It was something her grandmother had done, something primal and human and utterly instinctive. Then she did something even stranger. She started walking in a slow circle, keeping that bounce, that hum going. The vibration traveled from her chest to the baby, a steady, predictable rhythm. Esrath's cries began to falter. The baby's head turned, pressing against Bailey's collarbone where the vibrations were strongest. "What are you doing?" Varal whispered, afraid to break whatever spell was forming. "Humans calm our babies with heartbeat rhythms," Bailey murmured. "We carry them close. Let them feel the vibration of our voice, the steady pattern of our pulse. Movement helps too, probably left over from when our ancestors carried babies while moving through dangerous territory. The baby feels safe when they can sense the parent's calm." She continued the bouncing walk, the humming, adding a gentle patting on Esrath's back. The baby's cries reduced to whimpers, then to small hiccuping sounds. "But draconian physiology is completely different," Asher said from behind her, his voice filled with scientific confusion. "Their neural structures, their sensory processing—" "Maybe not so different where it counts," Bailey said softly. The passenger bay had gone completely silent except for Bailey's humming. Even the ship's engines seemed to quiet. Esrath's eyes, large and golden and ancient-looking despite the baby's age, slowly began to close. The tiny claws relaxed their grip. 5 minutes later, the baby was asleep. Bailey carefully, so carefully, transferred Esrath back to Varal's arms. The dragon diplomat took her child with shaking hands, staring at Bailey with an expression that transcended species, pure, overwhelming gratitude. "How did you—" Varal began. "Babies are babies," Bailey said with a small shrug. "Doesn't matter if they have scales or skin. They need to feel safe, feel the rhythm of someone calm and steady. They need to know they're not alone." Varal's crest rose fully, a sign of deep respect among her people. "You have given me a gift beyond measure, human. I will not forget this." As Bailey returned to her engine compartment, Asher walked beside her, shaking his head in amazement. "Do you realize what you just did? Draconians never let outsiders touch their young. You just created a cross-species childcare breakthrough." Bailey grinned, picking up her wrench. "I just helped a mom with her baby. Nothing special about that." But Asher smiled, watching her disappear back into the machinery. "That's exactly what makes humans special," he said to the empty corridor. "You see people, not species." In the passenger bay, Ambassador Varal held her sleeping child close, and for the first time in the journey, she allowed herself to hope that perhaps the galaxy's newest members, these strange, empathetic humans, might change everything. The celestial traverse continued its journey through the stars, its corridors finally peaceful, carrying proof that some instincts transcend evolution, and that sometimes the simplest human gesture can bridge the vastness between worlds.